Have you ever had a feeling so intense, so powerful, that you wondered where it was coming from? Well, today, we're diving into a state of prayer so profound, it forces that very question. Is this a genuine connection with God, or could it be a clever deception? We are going to unlock the secrets of what's called the fifth mansion. Right off the bat, the author doesn't start with some dry academic definition. No, it's this passionate, almost breathless cry. You can just feel the excitement and, honestly, the struggle to even put this experience into words. It tells you right away we're not talking about your everyday prayer here. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at what it takes to even get into this state. Then we'll try to understand what this prayer of union actually feels like. After that, we hit the big question. Is it divine, or is it a deception? Then we'll uncover the one unmistakable sign of its authenticity. And finally, we'll see why it's considered a gift that's totally beyond our own power. So first things first, how does someone actually enter this fifth mansion? Well, the text makes it really clear that this isn't an open house. The invitation is, shall we say, pretty exclusive. The author points out that a lot of people are drawn to this kind of deep spiritual life, but in the end, only a very few actually get here. Its rarity just makes it that much more fascinating. So what's the catch? What's the barrier to entry? Well, it all boils down to these 5 simple words, but boy, are they demanding. To get this treasure, you have to be willing to give up, well, everything. The text says it requires total, complete surrender. You can't hold anything back. It's an all-or-nothing deal. Okay, so let's say someone makes it past the velvet rope. What does this state, this prayer of union, actually feel like? What happens to a person when they cross that threshold? The language here is just wow. It's so intense and full of contradictions. The soul feels like it has died entirely to this world. It's described as a delicious death. I mean, that points to something so deeply absorbing that the outside world, and maybe even your sense of self, just completely melts away. You can tell the author is kinda struggling for words, using comparisons to help us get it. They say it's like a deep drowsiness or even a dead faint. But then they're quick to say what it's not like. It's not that fuzzy in-between feeling of just dozing off. It's more like a complete, total shutdown of your normal senses. And when I say total shutdown, I mean it. During this union, everything is suspended. You can't feel, you can't think, you don't even consciously know what or how you love. It's like the soul has even left the body, and the body itself is so stunned it can barely move. It is a complete absorption into something else. Now imagine going through an experience that powerful, that weird. You'd probably have a few questions when you came back to reality, right? And that brings us to the absolute heart of this whole thing, the problem of telling what's real from what's just an illusion. And this is the terrifying question that hangs over everything. When your mind and your senses are completely offline, how on earth can you be sure of the source? Was it real? Or was it, as the author puts it, a masterful deception from the devil disguised as an angel of light? So, the first clue for telling them apart? It's all about the aftertaste, so to speak. A true divine union leaves you with a deep, lasting peace and satisfaction. And that's a huge contrast with worldly pleasures, which, according to the text, often just leave you feeling kind of empty because they're so fleeting. And look, the author is super clear about this. If it's a genuine union, the devil has zero power to interfere. He can't get in. So the whole thing hinges on this one word, genuine. We need a way to know for sure if the experience was the real deal. So how can you be absolutely sure? How do you get that proof? This brings us to the big reveal, the one single, unmistakable sign that proves the whole thing was authentic. Okay, so first, let's talk about what it's not. You might think the proof is in how good it felt during the experience, the sweetness or the joy. But the author says, nope, that's not it. Feelings can be faked. The real proof is what's left behind. It's this kind of spiritual imprint, a deep and unshakable certainty that stays with your soul long after the feeling is gone. It's not just a memory, it's a living conviction. And this, right here, is the absolute main point. It all comes down to this internal conviction. Years can go by, but the soul can never forget or doubt that it happened. That profound certainty is the proof. So where does this incredible certainty even come from? Well, the text says it doesn't come from logic or reason. You can't think your way into it. Instead, this conviction is itself a divine gift, planted directly in the soul. The thinking is that only God could create a certainty that profound. Okay, this brings us to the final and maybe most important piece of this whole puzzle. If the proof of the experience is a gift, what does that tell us about the experience itself? And this is a real game changer. This prayer of union, it's not a skill you can master. It's not a prize you can win if you just try hard enough. The author says flat out that it's a favor, a grace, that comes entirely from God's side of the street. Think of it like this. We can't force the door open. We can't even find the door. Instead, God just brings the soul in whenever and however he wants. He goes right into the very center of the soul, bypassing all our senses and our intellect, which are basically asleep at the wheel anyway. So when you boil it all down, the ultimate takeaway is this. The fifth mansion isn't some mountain you have to climb. It's a gift you have to receive. And that completely reframes the spiritual journey. It's less about personal achievement and more about just being radically open, waiting for a gift you can never, ever earn on your own. And that leaves us with a pretty huge question to chew on. If this powerful, life-changing union isn't a reward for all our hard work, but a completely unearned gift, then what's it for? Why is it even given in the first place? And that's a question the text leaves us to think about.